Broadcasting live from the Capital OTB studios, this is Racing Across America with Seth Merrow.
Yes, this is Racing Across America, and I am Seth Merrow. Thanks for joining us. Appreciate it on a big day of racing again. We had a big day last weekend when the 100-point Derby races kicked off. Florida and Arkansas, and the results have played into that last week, and we will see plenty more of that action. Excuse me, today. Wood Memorial at Aqueduct, the Bluegrass at Keeneland, the Santa Anita Derby out at Santa Anita. And speaking of that, the Santa Anita Derby goes off our time, 5, 6, about 7:45. So a little bit later start for that. And that means we are open later here at the Clubhouse Racebook as well. We will have nighttime thoroughbred racing action available. And here at the Racebook, we're open until 9 o'clock tonight. So keep that in mind. Swing by during the afternoon and enjoy racing action and grab a little lunch at Black Bear and hang around later on for a great action as well. As far as kickoff times, Aqueduct today will kick off at 12:40. Keeneland will kick off at 1 o'clock. And again, both venues have very big cards, and we'll be talking about them more with our guests this morning. Let me also remind you that it's a Fan Appreciation Day today at the Bridgeport branch. We'd love to have you swing by. If you're a patron out in that direction, give us our chance to say thank you to you. Bridgeport branch, food, fun, vouchers, PPs, and a contest where you can win a little extra something courtesy of Capital OTB. And as I say, gives us our chance to say thank you to you. So if you're out in that direction, stop by the Bridgeport branch today for a Fan Appreciation Day. Also, entries are open. Speaking of fun and promotions, coming up on Friday, it's another Pick 3 bankroll. Oh, the last, I've lamented about this. We had a string of really nice ones, and then we had a string where everybody's making a little money, but it wasn't great. And then last week I whiffed, but I lost 2 of them by that much, and they weren't paying huge, but they were paying all right. So would have walked away with a nice little chunk of change there, but they were both right under the wire, and you had to wait for the results. Both of them, I thought, maybe I got it. Maybe. And so it was frustrating when we did it last week, but we kick off another bankroll on Friday. Entries are currently open. So keep that in mind. The entries for the bankroll open today at capitalotb.com. Click on the promotions link, look for the Pick 3 bankroll graphic, click on that, and then fill out an entry form. And we'll close entries Tuesday, Wednesday, something as the week progresses. Again, we'll get enough entries and close it up and then pick our team. So you get your chance to be on the team if you fill out an entry form. And again, entries are currently open at capitalotb.com for Friday's Pick 3 online bankroll. All right, coming up today here on the show, we continue our talk with Cherie Devaux. We talked to her a couple of days ago, and then we had her on yesterday on Derby Deep Dive because she has a couple of Derby horses, one today in the Bluegrass. So we talked Reagan's Honor with her for our friends at West Point Thoroughbreds and her husband, David and Gordo. They both own. David, part of the breeding team with Cherie Moss as well. And Reagan's Honor has looked pretty good so far, but not in stakes action. So has no points, has to run first or second today. Cherie talked about that yesterday on Derby Deep Dive. If you missed it, you can catch it on our Capital OTB YouTube channel. She also talked about Golden Tempo as well, another Derby prospect coming out of her barn. But then we moved on, and she has some other nice 3-year-olds, not necessarily on the Derby trail, though. And I thought, well, we'll save that conversation for today. So talk about some other nice performances she had, some horses to watch. And we also talked about the retirement that was announced this past week. She Feels Pretty, who was obviously very special to Cherie Devaux, her first Grade 1 winner, her first Eclipse Award winning trainee. So we talked a little bit about, let Cherie remember She Feels Pretty a little bit as well. That's this morning. And it's fun to listen to Cherie. She did it a little bit yesterday with Reagan's Honor and Golden Tempo, talking about how they're different horses and you have to treat them differently. And hear a little more of that today. Hear a trainer talk about how you have to approach the different horses and their different specialties and their different quirks differently. And that was fun to hear that part of the conversation as well. So we'll kick things off in a minute or so with Cherie Devaux. And then a little bit later on, yesterday, caught up with Dave Grening from the Daily Racing Forum. Of course, he covers New York racing, but beyond. Last week, He was down in Florida, backing up Mike Welch for Florida Derby Day. And he was also over Tampa on their uh, Florida Cup Day on Sunday. So we hit on a little bit of that as well. But Dave's going to go over some of the stakes in New York. He also had some thoughts on the bluegrass. So fun show today. Again, concentrating on a lot of the great action that will be happening this afternoon, which you can catch obviously right here on the network a little bit later on as well. But we'll kick things off with Cherie Devaux. Then we'll go right into Dave Grening. I'll come back a little bit later on and we'll hit on some news and notes and whatnot as well. Oh, one news and note I do want to remind you um, there's a Derby Future Pool. The last Derby Future Pool is this weekend. But don't forget, with Easter, it closes at 6 o'clock today. So it actually closes before this action, this 3-year-old action goes. So that will affect your odds. You'll have to strategize a little bit. But keep that in mind. If you want to play the Derby Future Pool, it's going to close today at 6 o'clock. So again, just wanted to toss that reminder out there. Oh, and speaking of Easter, while I have the chance, I will also remind you there is no wagering in New York, just a law that has long since passed its relevance. As you can go to, I say it all the time, convenience store and buy lottery tickets. You can go to casinos in the state and play slots and blackjack and whatnot, but you can't bet on a horse race. But that's what the law says. And so no horse racing, no betting on horse racing in New York. So tomorrow here on the network, we fill it in. It should be fun. With the Derby and the Oaks coming up in a few weeks, we have all the prep races going back to the 2-year-old season. So who knows? Maybe you'll see a trip that gives you an idea as far as the Derby or the Oaks. But tomorrow we'll do that all day long. Derby and Oaks preps. Again, going back to last year's 2-year-old season. All right, let's kick things off. Again, a little bit later on, it's going to be Dave Grening, but we'll start things out continuing our conversation with trainer Cherie Devaux. But you have some other 3-year-olds that I wanted to touch on. And first off, we'll go to Englishman, who impressed in 2 starts. Debuted last September down at Churchill, looked very good in the debut effort with a 97 Beyer win, and then came back in the seasonal debut in the middle of March down at the fairgrounds and came back with a nice 95 Beyer win.
Englishman on the edge of the quarter pole, 6 lengths in front of Stormforged, with Silver Talisman charging on the outside. Route Procedure, Donegal Light didn't saving money. The half mile was 44.17 seconds. Son of Maxfield on cruise control with Jose Ortiz. It's Englishman, who's 10 lengths in front, coming past the 16th. He's the talk of the town. Englishman has come roaring back at the track, just cruises in. Englishman in hand by 8.
And from what I read, you're going to shoot for him as well on Derby weekend at Churchill.
Right. So we were planning on going when he broke his maiden. We were planning to go to a 1-turn allowance race for him at Churchill. He won going 7 furlongs. So a horse that's that fast, you really want to see how far they can go. And again, a lot of times they put all that effort in, and then when they can't do it anymore, they just have nothing left and they kind of gut themselves. So we're trying to increase his distance little by little. So he ended up, he did get injured after a couple works, and we weren't able to do that. And, we come back, and I had a couple people ask me, why did you start him at 6? And it was, well, because they don't have a 7 or a 6.5 at fairgrounds. You have to do, and I'm not going to why didn't you take him and try to get him into the Derby? And it's like, well, that's a great idea. And I know everyone's excited, but we have to manage our own expectations. We have to manage the horses that we have. And a horse that's fast, like, as I said, he went from 7 furlongs to having a break. And, and this is philosophy of training. Just got to be careful when you're stretching them out, because a lot of horses do get injured, or, mentally, is it going to be too much if they, if you run them too far and you just can't do it. So when Englishman came in, we really wanted to have a chance to run him. The plan was to run him towards the end of the meet and get him ready for the Pat Day Mile. That was the goal for him. And we were really hoping the race would go when it did, because the horse is going to run fast. And so, he's coming off a layoff, he's going to run fast. And now you're wanting to run him and stretch him out. So we had to give him the time. Instead of something like, 2 weeks later, we could have run him in a stake here at Keeneland, and he no doubt, I feel like he would run a really good race. But, again, developing the horse, we wanted to give him as much time as we can. We set goals with a lot of horses and stakes horses, especially because they're right out there and the race. So, that was the thinking. And, we're going to see how he runs in the Pat Day Mile. If he can go the mile, he's super fast, opens up some doors, and we'll just have to see. Eventually we'll have to see how he runs and how he develops, and if we want to try him going longer. Flight lines only come around so often where they can carry that speed for 1.25 miles. And he's only run 2 times, and he's a young horse. So we just have to, if we're going to do that, we have to pick when we're going to take that chance.
Yeah, looking forward to his shot in the Pat Day Mile, though, because the first 2 races have been very impressive. And speaking of impressive, another 3-year-old I wanted to talk about, the end of the fairgrounds meet just about a week and a half or so ago. Not to Worry in the career debut.
As these maiden 3-year-olds turn for home, it's Impractical with Ahmed Barrister. Chianti Town tries to rally on toward the inside, and Radar Lock is coming strong now. And on the front side, To the Merrier joins. Half mile, 45.67 seconds. Impractical continue to hold on to this lead as To the Merrier's coming with a charge, and Not to Worry with Jose Ortiz. Not to Worry, unveiled by Cherie Devaux. Not to worry at all.
The Dam, as I understand, a half sibling to Barbaro, makes sense with the Lyell connections there. So talk a little bit about Not to Worry and that debut win.
Yep. So Not to Worry's Dam is a half to Barbaro. So again, classic distance. He is a gorgeous horse. He stands over a lot of ground. He's a big 2-turn horse. And he was quite impressive when he came in the summer. He breezed from the gate, and then he got a little injury, as a lot of 2-year-olds do. And he was one that kind of stamped early that he seemed to have a lot of ability. Again, we don't know until they run. So, we took our time. He came in, and again, he was kind of like the Golden Tempo type thinking. He's big, 2-turn, scopy horse, bred for it, street sense. But he was just so impressive. So, with him, I do think he isn't as speedy as like an Englishman. So we are going to try to stretch him out in an allowance race on Derby weekend. Of course, you're asking me on the spot, or not asking, but on the spot. I think it's on Derby Day, actually. And then if he runs well there, he is Triple Crown nominated, and we have the thought of maybe going to the Belmont from there. So, we'll just have to see how he takes his next step and how he comes out of it, and then we'll regroup and see where we're going to go.
Obviously looked very good in the debut. So another one we're looking forward to. And I just wanted to touch on one that hasn't been on the track yet, but looking at your social media, Naomi, am I close to pronouncing that right? But it's the daughter of Zenyatta.
Nimue.
Okay. I was not close.
No, that's okay. You're in good company there. It's a tough name, and it's a very pretty name for her. But Nimue, she is a lot of horse. When she left Saratoga, she was 16.3, and she was starting to get really growthy. So we gave her some time. And now, right before we left from Fairgrounds, we measured her at 17.1. So she's had a lot of growth in the last couple months. And, she is going to have to debut at 2 turns. She's so big. I just don't think a sprint race, maybe a 1-turn mile. But she's having a little, not quite getting the hang coming out of the gate. So we're trying a couple different techniques to try to help her do that. She knows what to do when she gets out of the gate. She's fine in the gate, but she's just not connecting the dots on the braking of, they've got to come out of the gate, and she's probably not going to be fast out of there, but, she can't spot the field a bunch of lengths either. So just a little hiccup, and, when it's time, she'll figure it out, but she does act like she's talented. She's got, she's so big, she's not quick, but she looks like she is a 2-turn filly that can really keep going all day. She does have some speed. She's not slow, but she's just so big and covers so much ground.
And Zenyatta didn't debut until late in her 3-year-old season, if I remember correctly. So living up to the mom, perhaps, which would be fabulous. Speaking of nice female runners, there was some news that came out of the barn earlier this week that was maybe a little disappointing for racing fans, but She Feels Pretty was retired. And I just wanted to give you a chance to reflect on what she meant to your career, because she was just super special. Obviously, the first Eclipse winner you've trained, as she picked up the trophy for female turf Eclipse back earlier this year. 8 wins in 13 career starts, $2.5 million of those 8 wins, 5 grade ones, including the New York right up here in our backyard, Belmont Stakes weekend up here at Saratoga last year, and then went on to win the grade 1 E.P. Taylor up at Woodbine a little bit later on. As they say, picked up the Eclipse, but I think she was also your first grade 1 winner at Woodbine in the Natalma. Just reflect a little bit on the career of She Feels Pretty.
So, I mean, I'm so grateful, and it is an honor to really be able to campaign a filly like her. Because they don't come around. She is special. She never put in a bad effort. You know, there were some things like putting the blinkers on that we had to work ourselves into making her best. And she had the breakout. You know, I really do feel like her breakout performance was in the Queen Elizabeth at Keeneland.
Quarter mile to go. Caitlin, her greatness, the leader. She Feels Pretty. Swings off the rail and comes at her now from the second position. Soprano is still third. Oversubscribed and pin up Betty. She Feels Pretty has the lead in the final furlong of the Queen Elizabeth II Challenge Cup presented by Dixiana. It is all She Feels Pretty. Jean Velasquez, a dominating performance.
You know, it's just, I have always been a fan of the Jacksons since Barbaro, and they're great stewards of the sport. And this filly was special. My husband found her when he was scouting out on the farms, and she came in, and she always acted very nice. You know, she broke her maiden actually going sprinting on the turf, and then I don't know how many. I'd have to go back and see how many turf horses won going 5.5 furlongs on the turf, and then became 1.25 mile, you know, grade 1 winners. But she was so special, and she was a filly that so sweet, so honest, just a pleasure. She is a pleasure to be around. And you know, it's not very often you can bring a horse over and just know that they're going to put in their best effort. Like, she never had a bad day. And, you know, I really am grateful for the Jacksons who, as she was growing, because she had changed so much and grew, and we had to give her time to develop, time to fill in. And they just allowed me and my team to do what was best for her up until the decision to retire her was made. So just, it's an honor. I love working with horses. It's mostly enjoyable, but you know, it's just something special when you can come in and you have a filly like that.
Yeah, it was a spectacular career. Again, obviously winding up with the Eclipse earlier this year. And we should note, for people who, again, follow your social media, she had a little buddy, Mickey the Goat. And I noted that Mickey's got a new job now.
Yeah, Mickey, there actually has been a lot of talk about Mickey, and he is the biggest pain in my rear end that I paid $25 for 2 years ago at Derby time. So Mickey is a little cantankerous, as all goats are. I'm not a fan of goats. Like, I don't think people understand the mental breakdown that I had to just make her happy in her stall, because she was just stressed in there. Gretchen, Mrs. Jackson, she wanted him to come to her farm, and I just thought, she's elderly. I think they're 89, 90 years old, and he will headbutt you, and he'll run after you and just get you and take your legs out from under you. And I just thought, if I have to send Mickey to them, I'm just afraid he's going to hurt Gretchen. And she's very active. You know, she's still in the barn feeding her horses and tending to them. So, but Valerie, who takes care of, breaks the Jackson's horses, and had She Feels Pretty and Mickey. She saw another 2-year-old filly, and just thought that she might do with some company. So Mickey has been found himself a new girlfriend, and they are getting along swimmingly, but that just means that Mickey will be making a reappearance in my life, and which I'm not sure I'm actually excited about.
Yeah, I saw the trepidation on. I could read through the lines on
Yeah.
Twitter, but it's good to know for folks who
Yeah.
maybe were following along. Mickey has a new job.
Exactly.
Cherie, we appreciate the visit this morning. Certainly, we wish you a lot of good luck this weekend and going forward with the nice 3-year-olds you have and some of the other horses as well. But appreciate the time, and we will talk again.
Sounds great. Thank you.
If you don't have a Capital OTB account yet, now is the time to log on and take advantage of the sign-up bonus. More details at capitalotb.com. Become a Capital OTB account member now and enjoy free past performances, wagering from any device, live streaming, racing info, contests, promotion and events, and more. So sign up now and take advantage of the new account bonus. Details at capitalotb.com.
Want to get your career in horse racing off to a fast start? Well, the University of Arizona's Racetrack Industry Program is your winning ticket. The Racetrack Industry Program has served as a springboard to some of the industry's most successful individuals, with a proven track record of job placement right out of college. If you want to earn a degree in the exciting horse racing industry, the Racetrack Industry Program can put you in the winner's circle.
Sometimes it pays to go with the flow, to check your worries at the door, to reconnect with your crew, to follow the thrills and the flavor, to roll with it and see where it takes you, to enjoy every minute to its fullest, and to dance like there's no tomorrow. You can do that here at Rivers Casino and Resort Schenectady, where the good times flow.
Big weekend along the Derby Trail, opening weekend at Keeneland, Bluegrass, and out in Southern California, closing weekend for their winter meet, Santa Anita Derby. But in New York, it's the Wood Memorial. So since we're talking a little New York, who better to talk to than Dave Grening, New York correspondent for the Daily Racing Form and more, but certainly covering some New York on a big day like this. As always, Dave, good morning.
Good morning, Seth. How are you?
Very good. Happy to have you on board to talk a little bit, as I say, about the Wood and more. Maybe we'll get some thoughts on the Bluegrass. But first, I wanted to go back to last week because, as I say, New York and more. So I'm assuming you were down in Florida last week. Give us some thoughts on the Florida Derby. And I saw you write the who's hot, who's not for the Daily Racing Forum. And you made some remark about how the Puma not get that photo. And coming live, I thought the Puma had it. On the replay, I thought the Puma had it, but it wound up to be Commandment, the Puma, and Chief Wallaby. I thought all three of them looked pretty good.
Puma has made the lead. The Puma sticks the neck in front of nearly as they straighten away in the stretch drive. Chief Wallaby trying to angle off their flank down the center. Commandment. The four big shots with 1/8 of a mile more to decide it. The Puma has the lead. Running at him from the outside is Commandment. In between horses, Chief Wallaby. A thrilling finish to the Florida Derby. Here comes Commandment. The Puma tries to turn him back. It's a win photo.
Yeah, it was a solid performance from all three. The track was a little bit on the slow side, so I'm not sure what to make of the final time per se. But Commandment, with such a slow early pace, for him to get up there from last, just says a lot about that horse's will to win, desire to find the wire. I didn't think he got there. It's funny, I was watching the race with Brad Cox, and it was on the TV outside the jockey's room. And at Gulfstream, the losers, for lack of a better term, unsaddled by the runway where they walk onto. The winners just go right to the winner's circle. I watched the race and he was like, I don't know. But he walked toward the winner's circle. Like he had 2 ways to go. So I was like, well, he must have thought he won. Or I guess he just thought it would be easier to pivot from the winner's circle to the loser's area than vice versa. But I thought the Puma held on at first, watching the replay, because the camera angle on Gulfstream is not great. So you're not really sure where the wire is. But it was a terrific performance by both. I wasn't expecting the Puma to run as well. I really thought this was a race for the Puma to just sort of get around there. I know why they chose the Florida Derby. It was a home game for them after 2 road games in Tampa. It gives them 5 weeks to the Kentucky Derby rather than shipping to Kentucky and having to stay there for odd weather in between the 4 weeks from the Bluegrass to the Kentucky Derby. So it all made sense to run there. But I thought by doing that they weren't up against it a little bit, coming back off a big effort against the toughest company there was. But he ran terrific. I had no qualms about him getting a mile and a quarter because it seems like he's run further than the distance of the races that he's been in the last couple. Commandment again has a will to win that you'd love to have any horse have. Chief Wallaby, I'm not so sure about. I thought there was opportunity there for him to get split horses and get there. Look, he's only at 3 starts. He's still learning. I'm almost thinking he's more of a summer horse. He'll probably get into the Derby, although we'll have to see because the points this year, you're going to need 50. He's got 50, but then it's going to come down to earnings, and we'll see if he has enough to get in. But I kind of view him as a summer horse.
Yeah, we should mention, and you mentioned in the column, a couple of Japanese horses will be in this year. So that's going to take up a couple of spots. One taking the Mid-East route and winning the UAE Derby last weekend, and one coming through the Japanese route. So again, that'll take up a couple of spots. And then your who's not column, I jumped on Nearly last week, and oof, that was not a good looking performance. He may have been exposed by the distance.
I'm not sure what he was exposed, but I was very surprised. I liked him too. I thought, he would be the out of sight, out of mind type of horse. I'm surprised that I think he went off the favorite.
Yeah, I was surprised too.
He was coming off a nice looking win in the Holy Bull, but it was 8 weeks ago. Bravaro didn't come back to flatter that race. So I'm not so sure what was the issue with Nearly that day. I think he's going to be on the outside looking in, one of those horses that's going to need defections as we get closer. I think they would still train up as if they were going to run in the Kentucky Derby, but again, they would need several defections. I guess how many will be more clear after this weekend when you get these 3 preps where you could get as many as 6 new horses on the list because there's 100 points for 3 of them and 50 points for 3. And a lot of these horses are below the Mendoza line, if you will, right now to get into the Derby. So we'll have to see.
A 100 buyer for Commandment, 98 for Renegade. So some nice numbers there, certainly coming out of the weekend. And again, Renegade with the 98. What was your impression? Visually, it was very good looking, and the number wound up good. And as you noted, he popped to the top of the morning line, so to speak, favoritism for David Aragona.
Renegade is unlaunched on the 4 outside. Let's see what he's got for the final 3/16. Silent Tactic in front. Renegade way out in the center of the track, but he's coming with a burst. And here comes Renegade sweeping to the lead. And Renegade is drawing away in the Arkansas Derby. It's off to the Run for the Roses for Renegade.
I think he stamped himself the favorite with that performance. I understand that he didn't beat its quality of field as Commandment did, but he did it the right way. He won the same Sam Davis in fine fashion on a track that didn't favor his running style, wide and down and off the pace. That wasn't the way to win that day at Tampa, yet he did. Looks like he's going to keep a Rad Ortiz Jr. on his back. That's always helps. Todd Pletcher always helps. So I think he'll be the favorite in the Kentucky Derby come May 2nd. Tough to split those 2 horses, but I was very impressed with Renegade, and he galloped out super. He beat a horse in Silent Tactic that I think gets underappreciated. That horse shows up every time and runs his race, whether he's a true mile and a quarter Kentucky Derby horse type. I don't know that he's going to finish in the top 3 or 4, but he's going to run his race. He's going to give you everything he's got because he's shown that he does that every time. So I think if you sell Silent Tactic a little bit short, if you don't view him then you're going to kind of view Renegade and you're going to sell him a little bit short. But I think Silent Tactic's a real horse, and I think his best style might be to sit back and make a run. And I think he'll get that opportunity in a race like the Kentucky Derby that will have pace.
I agree. Renegade coming out looking good. I agree about Silent Tactic, and it's going to be interesting to see the 3 coming out of the Florida Derby, and Nearly as well. Again, I wasn't quite willing to give up either, although I wondered about the distance, but just one race, you can't decide. So it's a big weekend last weekend with results, 100-point races, as you say, 100 to win, 50 running second. So everybody comes out of that weekend with points in the pocket if they want to go, and the same this weekend. Again, Santa Anita Derby, Bluegrass, but let's take a look at the Wood. Saturday afternoon at Aqueduct, grade 2 event, $750,000. I went back to Napoleon Solo, and I liked him in the Fountain of Youth, and I just couldn't jump off because if he comes back with the return to Aqueduct, which he seems to appreciate, I didn't want to be on the sidelines. But reading your article and hearing from Chad Summers and his comments, I'm not quite sure. But I have him on top. Iron Honor gets stuck outside, but he's certainly tough, and I'm really intrigued to see what Talk to Me Jimmy does off of that big win in the Wither. So what are your thoughts in the Wood?
Yeah, I like Napoleon Solo as a horse. I don't know that I like him as a two-turn horse. I'm not saying that he was defined by the Fountain of Youth. He was coming off a layoff. He didn't break very sharp. But look, this horse won the Champagne, a one-turn mile, very fast. I think he's a horse you'll be talking about in races like the Woody Stevens and Alan Jerkins more so than the Travers and Jim Dandy and obviously the Kentucky Derby. He can prove me wrong for sure, but he's got a break sharp from the rail. He's going in with a missed workout, had a small issue with a bulb of his heel. Leading from, which is kind of why he scratched out the Arkansas Derby. I don't know. Now he's got a break. He's got to go to the front and try and carry this field a mile and 8. I just don't see it. This race has, C Lord Miles, C Bourbonic. This race has been ripe for chaos over the years, and I'm looking for a little bit more of that on Saturday. Two of the horses that I'm looking at are Albus or Riley Mott, coming out of a maiden special win at Tampa. I know it was Tampa. I know it was a mile and 40, and I know he's got the Alpine as the stallion. All that doesn't suggest that he's the winner of the Wood Memorial, but watch the race visually. I thought it was a really solid effort. He got good tactical speed, broke from the rail, got an outside stalking trip, and really pulled away nicely in the end and drew off, galloped out strong. And Riley Mott even mentioned that the rider that day, Camacho, told him he needed help from the outrider to pull him up. So all those things show to me that maybe ignore the Alpine here and focus on the Bernardini on the bottom side, and that he can get the distance. And I think he'll get a decent trip, probably sitting in the second flight. The other horse is a bit of a wild card here to me is Ocelli. He's a maiden. I get it. 1936 is the last time a maiden, and the only time a maiden has won the Wood Memorial. Tuffle, I believe the horse's name was. This horse is making his 6th career start. He ran the Virginia Derby. He was in contention until mid-stretch when, for whatever reason, you can see it when you watch the replay. He just cocked his head like someone tapped him on the shoulder, and he was like, "Who's that? Who's there? What do you want?" And the trainer Whit Beckman said he was trying to look around the blinkers, like he either heard something or felt something, and he was trying to look around the blinkers. And I just think he kind of came out into Butane's path a little bit and inhibited him. And I just think he spit the bit at that point. He was done. They're taking the blinkers off. Whit is pretty confident the horse will get a mile and an 8th. And I know that he'll get the right setup because there's good between Napoleon Solo, Talk to Me Jimmy, and Butane. I know there's going to be pace to this race. So he's the chaos horse that I'm looking for to blow up all the gimmicks and maybe even a few dollars to win on this one.
What do you make of Talk to Jimmy?
Talk to Me Jimmy, I thought was bias aided when he won the Withers. I give him credit for coming off a 3-month layoff. Could not really have official workouts. Rudy was under suspension at that time, but the horse trained. He didn't miss any training except for the weather situation. But I don't want to sell him too short from that standpoint because he did win by 11. And Grittiness, who ran second, did come back and ran second in the Virginia Derby. But I think his way is one way, speed. He's got Napoleon Solo to his inside, and Butane breaking from post 11 now is going to have to go. So I just don't see the trip that makes him successful. If he can rate, and which I don't know that he can, then I guess he's got a chance. But I just see him as his best races are going to come when he's on the lead.
All right, that's the Wood. We'll take a look at some of the undercard stakes as well. But before we do that, let's stick with the Derby preps and get some thoughts over at Keeneland in the Bluegrass Grade 1 event. $1.25 million up for grabs. I had Cherie Devaux on our Derby preview program talking about Reagan's Honor, who needs the race, obviously, with no points, so has to run first or second. She said that. Further ado, coming off the seasonal debut, second in the Tampa Bay Derby. Great White is interesting. You noted in one of your articles, Class President will come out. I thought that horse might be a player, but what are your thoughts in the Bluegrass?
Yeah, that was a huge scratch. I know he was listed as a 7 2/3 choice. I think he would have been close to the favoritism if you wanted the truth. I don't know what to do with Further Ado. Further Ado won maiden race at Keeneland by 20 lengths. I get that, and big number, big 20 length win. But the race, to me, has not come back good. The competition, I think, the last time I looked it up, there were 2 winners on dirt and 2 winners on synthetic, and 2 of those 4 winners won on in the claiming rank. So I think that was a little bit of an outlier for what he's done. His race in Tampa was solid enough. I mean, look, he got beat 3/4 of a length by the Puma, ahead in front of Canaletto. He did fight on to the wire. Now, the one thing that gives me some encouragement from, as Brad Cox said when I saw him Sunday at Payson Park, that the horse really came out of the race very well and was trained forwardly from that race. I think he sits a nice trip. Reagan's Honor to me is all speed's got to go. I think Monstrosity is probably a horse that's going to go. So I think Further Ado could sit right behind the pace. And I do think it's important as the Keeneland opens up today to watch how the races are, how the track's playing. Because, sometimes you get one of those speed favoring racetracks at Keeneland and Reagan's Honor could be long gone. Reagan's Honor is facing horses he is yet to face, the caliber of horses he's yet to face. We'll find out how good he is. But I'd kind of probably, with class president out, I'd probably go back to Further Ado.
Very good. All right, let's go back to New York and look at some of the undercard stakes on the big card on Saturday. And let's kick it off with the Gazelle. These are 3-year-old fillies going 1 mile and an eighth. I put Paradise on top, Brad Cox, Manny Franco on board, coming out of the win in the Busher, second career win in the third career start. 2 bits looks interesting to me. Pashmina, how did you see the Gazelle?
I saw Nikon maybe turning the tables on Paradise. I'm kind of forecasting a big day for Whit Beckman, former Chad Brown and Todd Fletcher assistant trainer, who's has some good success on his own so far. I think Nikon, when she went into the Busher, he had told me that she got sick out of the cash run where she was second, beating the neck, and he just didn't. She missed about 2 weeks of training. She only had like 2 works in the month of February leading up to the Busher. Travel was difficult getting from Florida to New York, and yet she still ran a credible second behind Paradise, who was, I guess the same thing from the standpoint of shipping because she was down in Florida. I just think the 2 turns might play more into Nikon's hands than maybe Paradise, and I just thought the price would be a tick better on Nikon over Paradise. But look, I think it's those 2. I don't know what to do with Chad's filly, always a runner. She won nicely at Tampa, but it wouldn't come back to great number. She missed some time also after the race, and wondering if she might just be a race away from these 2. So I really thought it came down to Nikon and Paradise. Pashmina is a little bit interesting. If you watch Sunland Park Oaks, I don't know how big a move she was making. I don't know where she would have finished, but the winner, the Bottle Rouge for Baffert, did come out in her path, and Christian Torres had to take up pretty abruptly, and it did cost her any chance. It might even cost her a placing. Like they did look at it for a while, and they did nothing with it, but you could make a case it could have cost her second. And she just doesn't have a lot of clean trips. I wonder if she really wants the mile and an eighth, but if she does and can get a clean trip, she can be a factor in this race.
It comes out of an interesting winter down at the fairgrounds and then shipped over to Sunland for that. Now up to New York for Rob Atras. And in Nikon, Icon Racing. So I'd expect Jason Worth will be in attendance on Saturday. You would have to think. Seems like he shows up when all the big stakes horses run.
I would think he'd be here, yes.
6th race on the card is the Carter Grade 2 event, $300,000, 7 furlongs the trip. I went with Rated by Merit, 5 for 5 so far for Chad Brown. Couldn't get past that one. But I say get past that one. Second choice behind Bookham Dano. But I don't know. Bookham Dano, with the layoff going back to August, there's not much more recency with Rated by Merit, but I tilted in that direction slightly over Bookham Dano. But it's going to be fun to see how they face off in the Carter.
Yeah, it's going to be an interesting race, but I couldn't get past Bookham Dano. This horse is just, he's a champion sprinter. He won 3 of those graded stakes at Saratoga last year. Yes, he's been off a long time, but he's been training fairly regularly at Tampa since getting back after the first of the year. And I just think he'll get the right setup. Rated by Merit, he's had, for all I get it, he's undefeated, but he's had 1 race in a year and a half, and 3 of those wins were against Stallion Stakes races for Michael Yates, and he won the Discovery, but he beat another Chad Brown horse, Wise Up, who, if you're ranking Chad Brown horses, I don't know, where do you put him? Does he even make the single digits? I'm skeptical of Rated by Merit. I'm less skeptical of Bookham Dano. I know both of them coming off of long layoffs. And I thought the rail horse was a little bit interesting. Point Doom, who, yes, is entered in a race at Laurel, but will run in the Carter. Off a couple of nice wins and got a big number in the General George. Now, will he bounce off that number? I don't know. Was it a track-induced number? I'm not sure. but he warrants respect for sure. If he can pull this off, breaking from the rail and trying to outfoot Rated by Merit, I don't know, but he's got good numbers and will certainly be valued. And he's 20 for 30, 1, 2, 3.
Yeah, and Acoustic Avenue, a really good New York bred BU for Todd and Pletcher. It's a fun race. I mean, the top two are going to stand out certainly in the betting as well, but a fun addition of the Carter. A little bit earlier on the card, the Excelsior, $150,000 up for grabs as they will go 1.25 miles. Yo Daddy, obvious in here, classicist, also a player for Pletcher as well. They will take some action. Stowaway, Omaha, I thought might be a little bit interesting. What did you see in the Excelsior?
Well, you mentioned everybody except the horse I like, which is on the outside, Otello. I thought he ran into a razor sharp batten down in that awfully named Pig Trail race at Oaklawn Park. Look, when batten down gets the lead, he's a high level, high quality horse. We saw, for Bill Mott, and I think this horse tried to chase him that day and just paid the price. I don't think there's anyone of the ilk of a batten down in this spot. In fact, I was a little surprised. We talked about this before we came on camera, that this was the third race of the card, because it's one of the more interesting betting races, because I just don't think there's a real standout. And who wants to go the 1.25 miles? Well, this horse has one win at the distance it's now in the barn of Rob Atras after racing for Wayne Potts. But I thought this horse has the stamina, and even though it was a restricted stake last time, I thought he might have faced better horses than are in this race on Saturday.
Yeah, it is an interesting race, an interesting betting race as well, on a really nice stakes card in New York. Speaking of New York, new addition to the jockey colony. I'm kind of looking forward to. I was liked Edgar Zayas in Florida, and he's moving his tack, has moved his tack to New York.
Yeah, he felt this was the time with the New York colony is kind of, there's no, besides Flavian Pratt, I don't know that you have a real standout rider. And that's no disrespect to any of the guys. I think they're all kind of equal footing. Manny Franco, Dylan Davis, Kendrick Carmouche. See what Castellano and Rosario and those guys do. So I think Saya stays in Kentucky, but what they do after the Derby week, who comes back to New York for the summer, and then obviously they'll all meet up in Saratoga. But I think Zayas will fit right in. His first mount yesterday, he ran second, and I think he's just got to make some connections and needs a little push, help from guys that used him in Florida from New York, and some Florida guys like a guy like Sappy Joseph. We'll have a small string here, I would imagine, at least during Saratoga. Get a push. And if you remember, there was a day last year at Saratoga, he won 3 on the card. So I think that sort of was the impetus for him to, make this the year to come back to New York.
He's going to be interesting to watch for sure. And one more interesting note that you noted, I saw on Twitter, you said, take a look at the last race at Tampa on Sunday. You will thank me later. Your thoughts on Parfois, if I'm pronouncing that correctly, 3-year-old filly for Chad. The number came up a little bit light, but visually, I think it was a 75, but visually, wow.
And here's Parfois up on the outside as Midsummer takes the shortest way home. Parfois is flying up on the far outside. Lima grabs the lead as they turn for home. Parfois is about 9 pass wide, though. Midsummer, here comes Parfois charging off the turn after Lima. Parfois, big turn of foot, and Parfois up to grab the lead from Midsummer. Lima and Aporia in behind. Parfois, she's all over the race course, but she's going to win in dominating fashion here. Parfois by about 7 in the end.
Yeah, I was covering the Tampa Stakes that day, and I just had the race on. It was the last race after the last stake, and I knew there was some, there was Jug, Clement, Chad obviously had 1 or 2 in there. So I just watched this race, and the move that this filly made was just awesome. And it looked like she didn't really know what she was doing. She bears out right, she bears in left in the stretch, but she's still running fast. And I just think that there's a big future for this filly. It was a maiden race. She'd gotten disqualified out of a maiden race in France last summer. They bought her out of that race, and who does better with 3-year-old turf fillies than Chad Brown? So what we saw, I think, was just laying the groundwork for what could be a really fun year for her. How far she wants to go, what she'll do when she starts figuring it out. And I know she benefited from a fast early pace, but I don't care. They could have gone 51 there. If she came with that run, she was going to win.
Yeah, I would think we would certainly see her up here in our neck of the woods in Saratoga. And it was visually very, very impressive. And Chad on the precipice of 3,000 career victories as well. You would think this weekend he's in a pretty good spot to maybe get over that. So we'll keep our eyes on that as well. Dave, as always, appreciate the conversation. New York racing, obviously a highlight on the weekend, but also Keeneland and Santa Anita with Derby preps. But we will check out your coverage in the Daily Racing Forum for New York and beyond. Appreciate the visit. We'll talk again.
See you soon, Seth. Thanks.
Sometimes it pays to go with the flow, to check your worries at the door, to reconnect with your crew, to follow the thrills and the flavor, to roll with it and see where it takes you, to enjoy every minute to its fullest, and to dance like there's no tomorrow. You can do that here at Rivers Casino and Resort Schenectady, where the good times flow.
You like free money? Well, Capital OTB gives its players plenty of opportunities to cash in. At Capital OTB, there are so many ways for horse players to receive bonus dollars by simply participating in promotions such as our bankrolls, bounty bets, online handicapping contests, and much, much more. Plus, with Capital OTB's Player Rewards Program, you get actual cash back. So what are you waiting for? Log on today at CapitalOTB.com or CapitalOTBBet.com and claim your free money.
Come on.
I want sales reports on my desk by Monday.
Whoops. My bad.
Love racing? RTN brings you every live simulcast on your home television, plus live video streaming and race replays on your PC and mobile devices. To order, visit rtn.tv. RTN, a breed apart.
Okay, our commercial in the mix there that starts out, do you like free money? Who's answering no to that question? Come on, everybody likes free money. And I bring it up again because we have a couple of chances coming up. One today, if you swing by our Bridgeport branch, again, Fan Appreciation Day always has a nice contest that you can get in and win a little extra money. So give us our chance again to say thank you to you, Bridgeport branch, this afternoon with a chance for a little free money. And free money also potentially on Friday. I have an online pick 3 bankroll again. And I bring it up because today entries open for that. So I just checked a little while ago. Some folks have already jumped on board. Take your chance to get on the team. We'll select the team probably Tuesday, I'm guessing. But you can put your name in the meantime to potentially get on the team for Friday's Pick 3 online bankroll. Today, go to CapitalOTB.com. Promotions link up at the top of the page. Click on that. Then look for the graphic and click that and fill out an entry form to get on the team and potentially get some of that free dough, which, yes, we all love. Mentioned with Dave there, the end of the Dave Grening interview, Chad Brown, currently sitting at 2,996 victories. So 4 away from a 3,000 career victory milestone. He has 5 today at Keeneland. He has 6 today at Aqueduct. So he'd have to have a good day, but that's not out of the question for Chad Brown. And then he'll be off until Thursday. So, but he's got a shot today, 5 at Keeneland, 6 at Aqueduct. We'll see how it works out. He is 4 away from that 3,000 win milestone. Keeneland's opening day yesterday. If you weren't paying attention, let me update because it was a nice day. As always, when Keeneland, it's like a robin on your lawn in springtime. It signifies spring is here. Now, their weather was a little bit dicey. They had some intermittent showers and whatnot. But I think the temperatures were okay. And I think today is maybe similar. So, again, pay attention. Oh, there it is. Thank you, guys. Live show. Oh, that looks like a beautiful day. So, again, that is good to have on the big day here with the Bluegrass and a nice undercard of stakes. So that's their new paddock. That looks gorgeous. But yesterday, opening day, there were 5 stakes races there as well. And just to give you a little update on the results yesterday, the Ashland for the 3-year-old fillies, perhaps on their way to the Kentucky Oaks. The big favorite was Zany, undefeated for Pletcher and Rapoli. Had won the maiden debut, then won the Demoiselle last year, came back seasonal debut, won the Suncoast over at Tampa. All easy wins. And so was the big favorite yesterday, but got upset by Percy's Bar, who maybe got the jump on Zany. Zany winds up second in there. Percy's Bar gets it done. Ben Colbrook training, Luan Machado on board. Came in, seasonal debut. Had finished third in the Breeders' Cup Juvenile Filly, so had been off since October, but had a couple of bullet works at Keeneland going in. So Percy's Bar goes into the Kentucky Oaks with a little momentum, and a lot of people on there were a few posts I saw on social media saying, "Well, I'm still on Zany, and maybe that's going to give us better odds on Kentucky Oaks Day." So there was your takeaway from the Ashland yesterday for the 3-year-old fillies. Also, the Transylvania for that subdivision I like quite a bit. The 3-year-old males on the turf. And in there, it was Remember Mamba for Cherie Devaux. We quickly mentioned that one with Cherie in the interview. But Remember Mamba, 2 for 2 so far in the career. And I think I have the chart up here. I think Remember Mamba went off favored. Oh, also yesterday in a non-stakes race, a Bourbon for Toby, a nice come from behind win, just got up at 11-1 for Tom Morley. And again, some sentiment to that name, as that one had a Saratoga win too that had a lot of sentimental value in the winner's circle after that. But Tom Morley, Ricardo Santana on board. And I was watching that race, and it was one of those where Bourbon for Toby was back a ways in the stretch, and you felt like, oh, has the momentum. I'm going to get, and then there were a couple of strides. No. Oh, yep, no. And you went back and forth the whole stretch, and then right before the wire did get the momentum going. And it was a little bit questionable, but on the replay, you saw Bourbon for Toby gets up. And as they say, that's a non-stakes race, but they were putting up mere $120,000. So pretty nice win for the Morley runner that I would think we stand a very good chance of seeing again at Saratoga. But as noted, Remember Mamba, also a nice come from behind victory under Jose Ortiz. Yeah, went off as the 2-1 favorite in there. Vassie was the morning, was it Vassie? No, I was going to say the morning line favorite was not the morning line favorite, as it may have been Remember Mamba. Yeah, it's 7-2. Remember Mamba was the morning line. So they were in the same ballpark by the time the odds went out, shortened up a little bit, but incrementally they were similar. Just under 4-1. Vassie runs third. And I bring that one up because if you remember when we were down Fountain Youth Weekend at Gulfstream, we had Wayne Bertrand sit in with us and do some handicapping on the Friday, the day before the Fountain Youth. But he mentioned, I want to toss out one tomorrow that I'm going to be singling in some of my plays. And he mentioned Vassie and the Colonel Liam at a nice 8-1, if people kind of took note of that. So again, nice call by Wayne Bertrand on that one. Follows it up again, running third yesterday in kind of a blanket finish, half a length neck there. But Remember Mama gets up late for Cherie. And Cherie was quoted afterwards as saying, not quite sure what might be next, but they do have the July 4th Belmont Derby up at Saratoga circled, and they'll, work back from that as far as, what they want to put in between. But Remember Mamba looked good yesterday in stakes action. The Beaumont also yesterday for 3-year-old fillies. Sprinting and in a pretty evenly matched field, it was a fine Chardonnay getting it done for Ian Wilkes. This one already had a win at Keeneland in a modest career, a lightly raced career so far. Not modest, lightly raced, only 4 starts, but it won the Myrtlewood last October at Keeneland. Followed that up with third in the Fern Creek at Churchill Downs, and came back and ran third in the seasonal debut at Gulfstream. But getting back to Keeneland, which a fine Chardonnay seems to appreciate, was the tonic. Got it done. Ian Wilkes said maybe the grade 2 8 bells next on May 1st, Kentucky Derby weekend. But he said that's relatively quick, so they'll see. But that is potentially where they will go. Sneaky Good winds up running second in there for Brad Cox, but a nice win for a fine Chardonnay. And also on the stakes agenda yesterday, the Lafayette for the 3-year-olds going 7, and it was trouble calling for Greg Foley, Luis Saez on board. Nice win there. Arctic Beast, the nice little New York bred, wound up running 4th, but that's a nice New York bred. We were up at, I bring that one up because we were up at the Finger Lakes last October. We were out doing it on the road when Arctic Beast won the New York Breeders' Futurity to go undefeated in the 2-year-old season, but ran second in the Springboard Mile. Actually, that was at the end of the 3-year-old season. That was in December, but moved out of the State Bred Company and ran well. Went back to New York in the Damon Runyon in the previous start in February and won that. Tried Open Company yesterday. Ran 4th, but again, that's one that will bounce back and forth between Open Company and State Breds, and I think do very well in either of those spots. But again, only 4th yesterday down at Keeneland as Trouble Calling does get it done in there as the 3-year-old sprinters faced off in the Lafayette. Have my PPs here for the Derby Future Pool. I'll remind you again that Derby Future Pool closes today. Usually the Future Pools close on Sunday. Sunday, of course, tomorrow is Easter. So the Future Pool closes at 6 o'clock today if you want to jump in. If you go to KentuckyDerby.com and click on the wager link at the top, then it opens up and there's the future wager. You click on that, you can pull up free PPs and take a look. So keep that in mind for today. I'll be back in, with what Aqueduct going off at 12. We'll be back in an hour and a half or so, maybe a little less than that, to kick things off OTB Live. And we'll take a look at some Aqueduct and some Keeneland this afternoon. Don't forget Santa Anita, also the Santa Anita Derby, which will go off about 7:45 our time. We will be open later here at the Clubhouse Racebook to take advantage of that Santa Anita card. We're open until 9 o'clock tonight here at the Clubhouse Racebook. Love to have you stop by all day long or right into the evening as well. Clubhouse Racebook, 711 Central Avenue in Albany. Just a quick look at this week's 3-year-old poll after the big action last week down in Florida, Florida Derby over in Arkansas, the Arkansas Derby at Oaklawn. Top 5 on this week's NTRA poll. Renegade, no shock, on top. Commandment, no shock, second. The Puma sits 3rd. Class President, who is a scratch today in today's racing. Class President 4th, and Emerging Market 5th. Chief Wallaby winds up 6th on the poll currently. You can go find that over at the NTRA website if interested. All right, I think we're all caught up with all our news and notes and events coming up here at Capital OTB over the next few days. Looking forward to this afternoon. Hopefully you are too. Last week was a lot of fun. The action was fast and furious, and it will be much the same today with great stakes action at Aqueduct, highlighted by the Wood, great stakes action at Keeneland, highlighted by the Bluegrass, and great stakes action out in Southern California, highlighted by the Santa Anita Derby. So it should be a lot of fun. One more reminder, no racing in New York on Easter, as is the law, and no wagering available either. So tomorrow on the network, you can catch our nice program. And thanks to Dan Hayes in the control room for putting together Oaks preps and Derby preps going back to last year, 2-year-old. You can watch all the prep action. And as I said earlier, maybe you pick up a trip that gives you a little inside idea of what direction to go as far as Kentucky Derby and Kentucky Oaks in just a few weeks. That'll be tomorrow all day on the network, so keep that in mind. All right, Seth Merrow, wrapping it up for Racing Across America for this Saturday morning. Appreciate your tuning in. Again, we'll be back an hour and a half or so for OTB Live on a Saturday afternoon. See you then.
You're watching OTB TV, a service of Capital Off Track Betting.